When my birthday passed without a single phone call, I knew I had become invisible. So I decided to give them a reason to see me, a reason to care. I pretended to have dementia. I thought I was testing their love. I had no idea I was about to uncover their greed. What I overheard them planning in my own home was far worse than any disease. Before we continue, please subscribe to the channel and let us know where you're listening in the comments. The morning I decided to pretend I had dementia, I was sitting at my kitchen table staring at 3 birthday cards that had arrived a week late, again. Each one was signed hastily, store-bought, with those generic messages that could have been meant for anyone. Happy birthday, Mom. Hope you have a great day. Patricia. Many happy returns. Michael. Best wishes on your special day. Jennifer. I traced my finger over their signatures, remembering when these same children used to make me cards with crayons and construction paper, pouring their little hearts into every misspelled word. When did I become someone who warranted only a last-minute card grabbed from the pharmacy checkout line? The house felt especially quiet that morning. Harold had been gone for 3 years now, and the silence he left behind had a weight to it, pressing against my chest like a physical thing. We'd raised our 3 children in this house, filled these rooms with laughter and arguments and the beautiful chaos of family life. Now, at 72, I rattled around in it like a marble in a shoebox. The phone hadn't rung once on my birthday, not one call. I'd made excuses for them, of course. Patricia was busy with her law practice in Seattle. Michael had his hands full with his tech startup in Austin. Jennifer was juggling her real estate career and the twins in Phoenix. They had lives, responsibilities. I understood that, but understanding didn't make the silence any less deafening. It was the newspaper article that gave me the idea. I'd been reading about a study on family dynamics and elder care, how adult children often only step up when they perceived their parents as truly needing help. The researcher had used the phrase crisis activation, the idea that some families only came together during emergencies. I set down my coffee cup, the ceramic clicking against the oak table Harold had built in his workshop 35 years ago. What if I gave them a crisis? Not a real one, of course. I wasn't cruel. But what if I could see who my children really were when they thought I needed them? The idea took root slowly, like a seed finding purchase in dark soil. I'd been an actress in community theater for decades before the children came along. Harold used to joke that I could convince anyone of anything with the right expression and timing. Margaret, he'd say, you could sell ice to Eskimos with that face of yours. I spent the next week researching. The internet, for all its faults, was a treasure trove of information about early-stage dementia. I learned about the subtle signs, repeating questions, misplacing items, confusion about time and dates. I took notes in a journal I later hid in the attic, treating this like any other role I'd prepared for. The first test came when Patricia called 2 weeks later, her obligatory monthly check-in. Hi, Mom. How are you doing? I let a pause stretch just a beat too long. Patricia, is that you, dear? Yes, Mom, it's me. Are you okay? Oh, yes, I'm fine. I was just making lunch, or was it breakfast? What time is it there? Mom, it's 3 p.m. here. Same time zone, remember? I'm in Seattle, not Shanghai. I forced a small laugh, making it sound uncertain. Of course, silly me. How are the children? Mom, I don't have children. You know that. Oh, I let confusion color my voice. I thought, never mind. How's work, dear? The conversation continued, but I could hear the change in her tone, a sharpness and a tension that hadn't been there before. When she hung up, promising to call again soon, I sat back in Harold's old recliner and wondered if I was doing the right thing. But then I thought about the birthday cards, the missed holidays, the way they'd started talking about me instead of to me at family gatherings, as if I were already half gone. Maybe I needed to know where I stood with them. Maybe I needed to know who would be there when I actually did need help. The next phase required more preparation. I started deliberately leaving things in odd places when I knew one of them would visit. I'd put my reading glasses in the refrigerator, leave the television remote in the bathroom, forget to turn off the stove burner, always catching it before any real danger, of course. Michael visited first, 3 weeks into my performance. He'd flown in for a business meeting, he said, and thought he'd stop by. The fact that he'd been in town for 2 days before calling didn't escape my notice. "Mom, why is your purse in the oven?" He pulled it out, looking at me with those sharp blue eyes he'd inherited from Harold. I don't know. I must have. When did you get here, sweetheart?" "Just now, Mom. We talked about this yesterday, Mom. I said I'd come by after my meeting." "Yesterday?" I touched my temple, a gesture I'd practiced in the mirror. "I'm sorry, dear. Things have been a bit fuzzy lately." What I saw in his face then made my heart clench. It wasn't concern. It was calculation. I could practically see the gears turning behind his eyes, adding up the cost of my confusion. The next morning, I overheard Michael on the phone in the garden. He thought I was napping, but I had positioned myself by the open window in the study, hidden behind Harold's heavy curtains. "Patricia, we need to talk about Mom. No, I'm serious. I found her purse in the oven yesterday." Yes, the oven. And she couldn't remember that I was coming to visit. I know she's always been a bit scattered, but this is different. My hands trembled as I gripped the curtain fabric. Not from age or illness, but from the dawning realization of what I'd set in motion. Still, I had to know. I had to see this through. Jennifer arrived the following weekend, unannounced, the first time she'd made the drive from Phoenix in 8 months. She brought the twins, Sophie and Emma, now 13 and more interested in their phones than their grandmother. But Jennifer's eyes were sharp, watching me as I moved around the kitchen preparing lunch. I played my part carefully. I called Sophie by Emma's name twice. I asked Jennifer about her job at the bank. She'd left banking 5 years ago for real estate. I started making tea and then abandoned it halfway through, moving to water the plants instead. "Mom," Jennifer said carefully, "when was the last time you saw Dr. Morrison?" "Dr. Morrison?" I let my brow furrow. "Is he the one with the mustache, or am I thinking of someone else?" "Your primary care physician, Mom. The one you've been seeing for 15 years. "Oh, yes. Lovely man. I saw him. Was it last month, or—" I trailed off, staring out the window as if lost in thought. That evening, I heard my 3 children on a conference call. Jennifer had set up her laptop in the dining room, and their voices carried clearly to where I sat on the stairs, my heart breaking with each word. "We need to face facts," Patricia's voice came through the speaker, crisp and lawyer-like. "She's deteriorating. The question is what we do about it. The house is worth at least $800,000 in this market, maybe more with some updates. That would cover a good facility for years. You're already talking about selling her house?" Jennifer sounded shocked, but not shocked enough to shut down the conversation. "We have to be practical," Patricia interjected. "A place like Sunset Gardens runs about $6,000 a month. The house sale would cover that and leave plenty for other expenses." Other expenses. I pressed my hand to my mouth to stifle a sob. Is that what their inheritance had become? Other expenses? "What about her wishes?" Jennifer asked weakly. "She always said she wanted to stay in this house." "That was before," Michael said firmly. "She's not capable of making those decisions anymore. We have to do what's best for her." "And what's best for us," Patricia added quietly. "Let's be honest, none of us can take her in. I've got the partnership track to think about. Michael, you're never in one place for more than a week. And Jennifer, you've got the twins to consider." So we warehouse her, Jennifer said, but there was resignation in her voice, not protest. It's not warehousing, Patricia's tone sharpened. It's ensuring she gets proper care. Look, I can have my colleague who specializes in elder law drop the paperwork. Power of attorney, asset management. We do this right, and everyone's taken care of. Everyone except me, I thought, climbing the stairs on legs that felt suddenly ancient. In my bedroom, I sat on the quilt my mother had made for my wedding, running my hands over the careful stitches. Harold's picture smiled at me from the nightstand. What have I done? I whispered to his image. What have I started? But I knew I couldn't stop now. I'd opened this box, and I needed to see what else would crawl out. The next few weeks brought a flurry of activity. My children, who had barely managed monthly phone calls before, were suddenly ever present, not with love or concern, but with tests and assessments. Patricia flew in with a briefcase full of legal documents. Mikey brought a tablet loaded with cognitive evaluation apps. Jennifer scheduled appointments with specialists. I failed every test, of course. Not dramatically. I'd researched enough to know that early stage dementia was subtle. I'd pause too long to answer questions. I'd lose my train of thought mid sentence. I'd forget names of acquaintances, but remember my children perfectly, because that's how it often worked in the beginning. Dr. Morrison, bless him, was harder to fool. He'd known me too long, seen me through Harold's illness and death. When my children insisted on accompanying me to my appointment, his eyes met mine with a question I couldn't answer. Margaret, he said gently, after running through the standard cognitive tests, how have you been feeling lately? Any confusion or memory issues? I looked at my children, perched like vultures in the examination room chairs, and then back at Dr. Morrison. I I've been having some trouble, little things, forgetting where I put things, losing track of time. He nodded slowly, making notes. But as he wrote, he gave me another look, one that said he wasn't entirely convinced. Still, with my children there corroborating my symptoms, what could he do? The diagnosis of mild cognitive impairment with suspected early-stage dementia came 2 weeks later. My children received it like a verdict they'd been expecting, their faces mixing concern with something else. Relief? Vindication? I watched them exchange glances over my head as Dr. Morrison explained treatment options and prognosis. The good news, he said, his eyes finding mine with that same questioning look, is that this can progress very slowly. Many patients maintain their current level of function for years with proper support. But it will progress, Patricia pressed. She'll need more care eventually. Every case is different, Dr. Morrison said carefully. Margaret is otherwise healthy, with medication and cognitive exercises. We're thinking about Sunset Gardens, Michael interrupted. They have a memory care unit. Dr. Morrison's eyebrows rose slightly. That seems premature. Margaret is still highly functional. She's living independently, managing her daily activities. For now, Patricia said, we want to be proactive. I sat there, playing with the hem of my cardigan, letting them discuss my fate as if I weren't in the room. It was a bitter preview of what real cognitive decline would bring, becoming invisible, a problem to be solved rather than a person to be loved. That night, alone in my house, I called my sister Ruth in Florida. She was the only one I could trust with the truth. I've done something terrible, I whispered into the phone, tears finally coming. Margaret, what's wrong? Are you sick? No. Yes, I don't know. The words tumbled out. My deception, what I'd overheard, how quickly my children had moved to take control. Ruth listened in silence until I finished. Oh, honey, she finally said. What a mess. But I can't say I blame you. Remember when Mom was sick? How different it was. I remembered. Our mother's final years had been difficult, yes, but we'd rallied around her, taking turns staying with her, sharing the burden and the blessing of her care. We'd kept her in her own home until the very end, just as she'd wanted. Different times, I said weakly. Different children, Ruth corrected. Margaret, you need to stop this. Tell them the truth. I can't, not yet. I need to see, I need to know who they really are when it matters. The next revelation came when I discovered Patricia had already contacted Sunset Gardens. I found the brochure in her purse when she visited the following week. Glossy photos of smiling seniors playing cards and doing water aerobics. Where life continues to bloom, the tagline promised. I confronted her, in my own way. Patricia, dear, I found this in the kitchen. I held up the brochure, letting my hand shake slightly. Are we going on a trip? Her face flushed. No, Mom. That's just something I picked up. Research for the future. It looks nice, I said vaguely. Like that place we stayed in Maine when you were little. Do you remember? You found all those seashells. That was Jennifer, Mom. I collected sea glass. I smiled sadly. Of course, silly me. I get confused sometimes. What I wanted to say was, I remember everything. I remember staying up all night when you had pneumonia at age 7. I remember hand sewing your prom dress because the one you wanted was too expensive. I remember crying at your law school graduation, so proud I thought my heart would burst. How can you be so eager to forget all that? The house visits became more frequent, but they weren't social calls. Michael measured rooms and took photos. Jennifer went through closets, making notes on her phone. Patricia had hushed conversations with real estate agents in the driveway. One afternoon, I found them in Harold's workshop, discussing which tools might be worth selling. Michael was saying, Dad's table saw could get a few hundred, and these hand tools are vintage. Collectors pay good money for this stuff. I stood in the doorway, watching them catalog Harold's life's work like inventory. These were the tools he'd used to build their childhood, tree houses and doll houses, bookshelves and toy chests, now reduced to dollar signs. Oh, Mom, Jennifer noticed me first. We were just looking at Dad's things, I finished, letting my voice go soft and confused. He'll need them when he gets back from his trip. They exchanged those looks again, the ones that said, worse than we thought. Mom, Patricia said gently, taking my arm. Dad's not on a trip, remember? He passed away 3 years ago. I let my face crumble, tears coming easily because the pain was real. He's gone? Yes, Mom, he's gone. I leaned into her, feeling her stiffen slightly before awkwardly patting my back. When was the last time I'd hugged my eldest daughter? When was the last time she'd let me? I miss him, I whispered. I know, Mom. That's why we think, maybe it's time for you to live somewhere with more support, where you won't be alone with these memories. The meeting with the elder law attorney was scheduled for the following Tuesday. Patricia had arranged everything with her colleague, a woman named Diane Hartley, who specialized in transitional family planning, a euphemism I learned for taking control of aging parents' assets. I dressed carefully that morning, choosing a floral blouse that was slightly misbuttoned and a cardigan with a small stain on the sleeve, details that suggested declining self-care without being obvious. I'd become an expert at this performance, though each day of deception weighed heavier on my conscience. The law office smelled of leather and old paper, intimidating in its formality. My 3 children flanked me as we sat across from Diane, who spread documents across her mahogany desk like tarot cards predicting my future. Mrs. Hayes, Diane began, her voice professionally warm, your children have expressed concern about your ability to manage your affairs going forward. We're here to discuss options that will protect your interests. My interests. I almost laughed at the irony. I don't understand, I said, making my voice small and uncertain. What affairs? Patricia leaned forward. Your finances, Mom. The house, your investments. We want to make sure everything is taken care of. Oh, I looked down at my hands, noticing they were clenched in my lap. I forced them to relax. Harold always handled those things, which is why we need to step in now, Michael said, to help you. Diane produced a document titled Durable Power of Attorney. This would give your children the ability to make financial and legal decisions on your behalf, she explained. It's a safeguard, ensuring your bills are paid, your assets are protected. I picked up the document, pretending to struggle with the small print. I can't, the words are all jumbled. That's okay, Mom, Jennifer said quickly. We've read it. It's standard stuff. It just means we can help you with things like paying bills and managing the house. And selling it if necessary, Diane added, glancing at Patricia, should you need to transition to a care facility. There it was, the real purpose laid bare. Selling my house? I looked around at my children, letting confusion and fear creep into my voice. But where would I live? Somewhere nice, Mom, Patricia assured me. Somewhere with people to help you, activities, medical care if you need it. Like a hospital? No, more like a community for seniors. I turned to Michael, my supposed protector, my only son. You think I should leave my home? He couldn't quite meet my eyes. We think it's what's best, Mom. You're forgetting things. What if you left the stove on? What if you fell and no one was there? I have my alert button, I said, touching the medical alert pendant they'd insisted I wear, another prop in this elaborate charade. That's not enough anymore, Patricia said firmly. She pushed the power of attorney document toward me. We need you to sign this, Mom, so we can take care of you. I stared at the signature line, pen trembling in my hand. One signature, and I would legally become what I'd only been pretending to be, incapable, dependent, managed. I need to think about it, I said finally, setting down the pen. Diane and Patricia exchanged frustrated glances. Mom, there's nothing to think about, Patricia said. This is for your own good. I want to go home, I said, making my voice querulous. I'm tired. The ride home was silent, except for Patricia's heavy sighs from the driver's seat. I stared out the window, watching familiar streets pass by, wondering how many more times I'd make this journey. That evening, I sat in Harold's workshop, surrounded by his tools and a lingering scent of sawdust. I picked up his favorite hammer, worn smooth from years of use, and remembered teaching Michael to drive a nail straight when he was 8. He'd been so proud of the birdhouse they'd built together. Now that son wanted to sell those tools to strangers. My phone rang, Ruth's nightly check-in. How did it go? She asked without preamble. They want power of attorney. They had the papers already. Margaret, this has gone far enough. You're playing with fire. I know. I ran my finger along the workbench Harold had built, feeling every nick and scratch. But I'm not done yet. I need to see how far they'll go. What if you can't come back from this? What if they commit you somewhere before you can tell the truth? It was a risk I'd considered. But something stubborn in me, some need to know the full truth about my children, wouldn't let me stop. I'll be careful, I promised. But careful is a relative term when you're pretending to lose your mind. The next few days brought a new level of surveillance. Jennifer installed cameras in my house, for safety, she said. Motion sensors that would alert them if I wandered at night. A lockbox on the door so they could come and go as they pleased. I played along, expressing mild confusion about the devices, but not protesting. Inside, I seethed at the invasion, the assumption of incompetence. One morning, I woke to find Michael in my kitchen, going through my mail. "Good morning, dear," I said, shuffling in with my robe slightly askew. He startled, shoving papers into his briefcase. "Just checking on you, Mom, making sure no important bills are being missed." I noticed he'd pocketed several envelopes. Bank statements, most likely, investment updates, the financial roadmap to my life. "Would you like some breakfast?" I offered, playing the gracious but confused hostess. "No, I have a meeting. But Mom, we need to talk about your accounts. Some of them should probably be consolidated, simplified. It would be easier for everyone. Easier to access, he meant. Easier to control. Whatever you think is best, dear, I said vaguely, opening the refrigerator and staring inside as if I'd forgotten what I wanted. After he left, I made a cup of tea with steady hands and sat at my kitchen table, the same one where this all began with those birthday cards. The irony wasn't lost on me. I'd wanted to know if my children cared, and now I knew exactly how much, just not in the way I'd hoped. 3 weeks later, on a Thursday afternoon that started like any other. I was tending Harold's roses in the backyard, the autumn sun warm on my shoulders, when I heard voices from inside the house. My children had let themselves in again, using the lockbox code they thought I didn't know. I crept closer to the open window, pruning shears still in my hand, and listened. "The realtor says we could list it next month," Patricia was saying. "The market's perfect right now." "What about Mom?" Jennifer asked. "She's not going to go willingly." "She doesn't have to go willingly," Michael replied. "Once we have power of attorney, we can make the decision for her. Sunset Gardens has an opening in their memory unit. I put down a deposit." A deposit on a cage for their mother. "You already put down a deposit?" Jennifer sounded shocked, "without discussing it." "Someone had to take action," Michael said defensively. "You've seen her. She's getting worse every day. Yesterday, she called me Harold." I hadn't done that. I would never make that mistake. Harold and Michael looked nothing alike. My son was lying to his sisters, embellishing my symptoms to speed up their plans. "The house sale will cover the deposit and first year's fees," Patricia added, ever the practical one. "After that, her pension and Social Security should cover most of it. We might have to chip in a little, but not much." Chip in? Like I was a restaurant bill to be split. "What about her things?" Jennifer asked. 50 years of stuff in this house." "Estate sale," Michael said simply. "The company I contacted says they can handle everything. They take 30%, but it's worth it to not deal with it ourselves." I stood frozen in my garden, Harold's roses blurring through sudden tears. They were parceling out my life like vultures over carrion, and I wasn't even dead yet. "When?" Jennifer's voice was quiet. "I figure we give it another month," Patricia said. "Get the power of attorney sorted, maybe have another doctor confirm the diagnosis. Then we move fast. The longer we wait, the more likely she is to hurt herself or burn the house down." "She's not that bad yet," Jennifer protested weakly. "Yet," Michael emphasized. "But she will be, and we need to be ready. Look, I know this is hard, but we're doing the right thing. She'll be safer, looked after, and we can stop worrying every time the phone rings that something's happened." They were worried about phone calls. I was worried about losing everything I'd ever known. I dropped the pruning shears, not caring about the clatter, and walked around to the front door. Let them scramble. Let them wonder how much I'd heard. I entered through the front door, calling out cheerfully, "Hello? Is someone here?" The guilty silence that greeted me was deafening. Then Patricia appeared from the living room, her lawyer's smile firmly in place. "Hi, Mom. We just stopped by to check on you." "How lovely," I beamed at her, then noticed her sisters behind her. "Oh, all 3 of you. What's the occasion? Is it someone's birthday?" "No, Mom," Jennifer said gently. "Just a visit." I clapped my hands together. "Well, this calls for tea. And I think I have some of those cookies you used to like, Patricia. The ones with the jam centers." "Mom, I haven't eaten those since I was 12. Oh, I let my face fall. Well, I'm sure I have something. I bustled into the kitchen, hearing them whisper urgently behind me. My hands shook as I filled the kettle, not from confusion, but from rage. How dare they plan my imprisonment while drinking tea in my kitchen? We sat awkwardly around a dining room table, my children watching me like hawks as I served tea in my good china, the china they'd probably already priced for the estate sale. Mom, Patricia began carefully, we've been thinking maybe it's time you had some help around here. Someone to check on you, help with meals and medication. Oh, I manage fine, I said, deliberately pouring tea into my saucer instead of my cup. I stared at it for a moment, then laughed. Silly me, wrong spot. They exchanged those looks again. Actually, Michael said, we found a place we think you'd really like. Sunset Gardens. It's beautiful, Mom. Like a resort. They have activities, a dining room so you don't have to cook, medical staff if you need them. But I have a home, I said simply. This is a lot of house for one person, Patricia said. And the stairs, we worry about you falling. I've lived here for 35 years. I know every step. For now, Michael muttered. I looked at each of my children in turn, seeing strangers wearing familiar faces. You want me to leave? We want you to be safe, Jennifer said, reaching for my hand. I let her take it, feeling the awkwardness in her touch. When had my children become afraid to touch me? Safe, I repeated. Yes, safety is important. That night, after they'd left, with more promises to look into options, I sat down at Harold's old desk and began to write. Not the confused ramblings of a dementia patient, but a clear, cogent letter. A confession. A revelation. A goodbye. But I wasn't ready to use it. Not yet. There was one more act to play. The next morning, I woke with a strange sense of clarity and purpose. Today would be the day I ended this charade, but not in the way my children expected. I had one final performance to give, one that would reveal everything. I called each of my children separately, my voice trembling with manufactured urgency. Patricia, can you come over today? I need to tell you something important, something about your father. Michael, it's Mom. I found something in the attic about the house. You need to see this. Jennifer, sweetheart, I'm scared. I keep forgetting things and I don't know what to do. Please come. 3 different hooks for 3 different children. Patricia, always driven by secrets and control. Michael, focused on assets and value. Jennifer, the only one who might still have a conscience to appeal to. They all arrived within an hour, concern and calculation warring on their faces. I met them at the door wearing my best dress, hair carefully styled, makeup perfect. The confusion in their eyes was almost comical. Mom, Patricia said slowly, you look nice. Thank you, dear. Please, come in, all of you. Sit down. I led them to the living room, where I'd arranged 4 chairs in a circle. On the coffee table sat a box I'd retrieved from the attic, Harold's old video camera, photos, documents, and the letter I'd written the night before. Mom, what's going on? Michael asked, suspicion creeping into his voice. I sat down carefully, smoothing my dress, and looked at each of my children. Then I smiled. Not the vague, confused smile I'd been practicing, but my real smile. Sharp, aware, fully present. I have something to tell you, I began, my voice clear and strong. I don't have dementia. The silence that followed was absolute. I watched their faces cycle through confusion, disbelief, and the dawning horror of understanding. What? Patricia's voice was barely a whisper. I've been pretending, I continued calmly. For the past 2 months, I've been playing a role, testing you, and you all failed spectacularly. That's impossible, Michael sputtered. The doctor saw what you wanted him to see, what I showed him. Confusion can be performed, you know. I was in theater for 20 years before you were born. Jennifer's face had gone pale. The purse in the oven? Planted. Calling me Harold? Michael accused. I never did that. You lied to your sisters to make my condition seem worse. I heard you through the window. Patricia, lawyer to the end, tried to rally. This is clearly a delusion, a moment of clarity maybe, but stop. My voice cut through her denial like a blade. I heard everything. Every conversation about selling my house, about Sunset Gardens, about estate sales and power of attorney. I heard you calculating my worth like I was already dead. I reached for the video camera on the table. Your father gave me this for Christmas in 1987. You remember, Patricia. You helped him wrap it. Her face crumbled at the memory. I've been recording, too, I said quietly. Not with cameras hidden in my house like you did, but with this. Every visit, every conversation where you thought I was napping or confused. Would you like to see yourselves? Hear how you sound when you think your mother can't understand. Mom, Jennifer was crying now. We were trying to help. You thought you'd found a convenient solution to the problem of me, I finished. Ship the old woman off, sell her house, divide the spoils. Tell me, when did I become a burden to you? Was it when your father died? Or did it happen slowly, birthday by birthday, as I became less useful to your lives? Michael's face had turned red. How dare you? We were worried sick. Were you? I challenged. Or were you worried about missing out on your inheritance? You put a deposit down on a memory care unit, Michael, without even asking me. You were ready to lock me away based on a lie you were all too eager to believe. Because you made us believe it, Patricia shot back, her composure finally cracking. You lied to us. And you revealed your true selves, I said simply. That's what hurts the most. Not that you believed I was sick, but how quickly you moved to profit from it. How easily you discussed disposing of my life, my memories, my home. I stood up, walking to the mantel where family photos chronicled our decades together. Do you see this house? Your father and I built it with our bare hands. Every nail, every board, every sacrifice to make it a home for you. And you were ready to sell it to strangers for a number in your bank account. What do you want from us? Patricia asked, her voice hard now. An apology? Fine. We're sorry. We thought you were sick and we tried to handle it. Handle it, I repeated, like I'm a problem to be managed. I don't want anything from you. That's the point. I'm done wanting, hoping, waiting for you to remember that I'm your mother, not your inheritance. I picked up the letter from the table. This explains everything. My real plans. I've already seen a lawyer, a real one, not your colleague, Patricia. I've made arrangements that don't involve any of you. What kind of arrangements? Michael demanded. The kind that ensure I live the rest of my life on my terms, not yours. The house stays mine until I die. Then it goes to the Alzheimer's Foundation. Fitting, don't you think? My savings will support causes I believe in. You'll receive what you've earned through your actions these past months. Your father's tools, Michael, since you were so eager to price them. Some of my mother's jewelry for you, Patricia, the pieces you've always admired. And Jennifer, the photo albums you were so concerned about. Memories. That's all. You can't do this, Patricia said, slipping into lawyer mode. We can contest. Try, I said simply. I have 2 months of evidence showing you plotting to take control of my assets while I was fully competent. How do you think that will look in court? The room fell silent again. My children, these strangers who shared my DNA, stared at me like they'd never seen me before. And perhaps they hadn't. Perhaps they'd been seeing only what they wanted to see for years. I think you should leave now, I said quietly. All of you. And don't come back unless you can see me as your mother, not your meal ticket. Jennifer was sobbing openly now. Mom, please, we can fix this. We can. No, I said firmly. Some things, once broken, can't be fixed. They can only mourn. One by one, they left. Patricia with her jaw set and eyes blazing. Michael muttering about lawyers and rights. Jennifer still crying, looking back at me with something that might have been genuine regret. I stood at the window and watched them drive away, their cars disappearing down the street where they'd learned to ride bicycles, where Harold had taught them to parallel park, where we'd waved goodbye on their first days of school. The house felt different in their absence, not empty, but free, like it could breathe again. I walked through each room, touching surfaces, remembering. In Patricia's old bedroom, I found the Mother's Day card she'd made me when she was 6. I love you to the moon and back, it said in crayon. When had that distance become too far to travel? In Michael's room, his Boy Scout badges still hung on the wall. He'd been so proud of each one, insisting I sew them on just right. The boy who'd promised to always take care of me had grown into a man who saw me as an investment opportunity. Jennifer's room still held her collection of music boxes. I wound one up, listening to the tinny melody of Somewhere Over the Rainbow. She'd been my sensitive one, the child who cried at sad movies and brought home injured birds. But even she had been willing to cage me when it suited her purposes. I returned to the living room and picked up Harold's photo from the mantel. I did it, I told him. I saw who they really are. I wish I hadn't needed to know, but I did. The phone rang as the sun was setting. Ruth. How did it go? She asked. It's done. I told them everything. And? And now I know where I stand. Alone, but honest. It's better than being surrounded by lies. You're not alone, Ruth said firmly. You have me. You have friends. You have a life they never bothered to see because they were too busy waiting for you to die. The harsh truth of her words made me flinch, but she was right. I'd been so focused on my children's neglect that I'd neglected my own life. What will you do now? Ruth asked. I looked around my home, still mine, still standing, still full of memories, both bitter and sweet. I'm going to live, Ruth, really live, not wait for them to call or visit, not measure my worth by their attention. I'm going to take that pottery class I've been putting off, travel to places Harold and I never got to see, make friends who see me as Margaret, not someone's mother or grandmother. Good for you, Ruth said warmly. It's about time. After we hung up, I made myself dinner, a proper meal, not the lonely sandwich I might have settled for. I set the table with the good china, poured a glass of wine, and toasted the empty chairs. To new beginnings, I said aloud, and to endings that set us free. As I ate, I thought about the performance I'd given over the past 2 months. It had been my greatest role, but also my most painful. I'd learned that love could calcify into obligation, that children could become strangers, that the fear of being forgotten was nothing compared to the pain of being remembered only for what you could provide. But I'd also learned that I was stronger than I knew, that I could survive betrayal and loneliness and the death of illusions. That 72 years of life had given me resources my children never suspected, resilience, cunning, and the ability to choose my own ending. The letter I'd given them contained one more thing I hadn't mentioned, a standing invitation. If they ever wanted to know their mother, not their inheritance, they could try again. But it would be on my terms, with honesty or not at all. I doubted they would come. The mirror I'd held up to them had reflected something too ugly to face. It's easier to blame the mirror than change the reflection.